Hello, my name is Pete Nelson, and I'm UIC Dean of Engineering. It is my pleasure to welcome our 2020 UIC College of Engineering graduates and their parents, families, and friends for this virtual celebration to recognize our graduates' years of hard work. We look forward to another celebration in the not-too-distant future where we will be able to celebrate together in person. It is my honor on behalf of the faculty and staff of the UIC College of Engineering to officially congratulate the class of 2020. Each of you has had a different journey to get here with your own unique set of challenges to complete your degree. We know it has not been easy and we are very proud of you. Many of today's graduates not only spent thousands of hours on their studies, but also balanced the heavy load of employment and family responsibilities, along with being a student. The families of our graduates are also a critical part of what we're celebrating here today. Parents, spouses, and other family members provided a wide array of support crucial to the success of our graduates. An obvious component of support is financial, but often even more important is the intangible support, the moral support, the encouragement offered, and understanding about the long hours spent in the classroom and the lab. Graduates, you can feel confident that you have received an excellent education. I know that the excellence of our faculty, the high quality of their research that keeps them at the forefront of their fields, and their commitment to teaching excellence have served you well and prepared you not just for technical proficiency, but for a lifetime of learning, a curiosity about new challenges, a delight in creative innovation, and a commitment to be part of the solution for which engineers are so uniquely equipped. I encourage you to give back and make the world around you a better place. I hope that you remain in the UIC College of Engineering family through active participation in our Alumni Association and continuing engagement with our students and professors. I wish each of you success and enjoyment in your chosen profession, engagement with the world outside your job, and the happiness of a well-lived, meaningful life. Congratulations to the class of 2020.
Welcome to the 2020 University of Illinois College of Engineering Commencement Address, Personal Edition. There are no answers for you here, none. I'm telling you that up front. But that's okay, because I think questions will serve you better, and I'll explain. I love technology, and technologies we've developed have made enormous contributions to the world. But too often, they were developed with the wrong or incomplete questions being asked. Two examples. For plastics, we asked, how do we make products lighter and less expensive? But not, what happens to them when their useful life is over? For fossil fuels, we asked, how can we build and power machines to make our lives easier? But not, what impact will the extraction and then burning of these fuels have on our environment, our health, our food and water? We didn't ask the right questions, and so now we have a new set of problems. Consider what Thomas Edison said in 1912. Someday, someone will invent a way of concentrating and storing sunshine to use instead of this old, absurd Prometheus scheme of fire. This scheme of combustion in order to get power makes me sick to think of. It is so wasteful. We should utilize natural forces and thus get all of our power. Sunshine is a form of energy, and the wind and the tides are manifestations of energy. Do we use them? Oh no. We burn up wood and coal as renters burn up the front fence for fuel. We live like squatters, not as if we owned the property. Do we use them? Sunshine, the wind, the tides? Now, over 100 years later, we are. Why couldn't we listen to that question then? How about food? Over the last 50 years, crop yields have dramatically increased, but the nutritional value of the food itself has gone down, and the quality of our soil has been degraded. Factory farms provide far more meat and poultry and fish, but the ratios of protein and fat in the animals have changed, and now over 40% of our population is obese. 30% of us are overweight. This creates a huge overhang on our already overstressed healthcare system. Maybe the question, how will we feed people, wasn't good enough. And maybe economies of scale aren't the only way to go. There are growing markets for people to buy their food from small organic producers, and we are more often generating energy at the place of need, like at our homes, cleanly powering our washing machines and our cars. The trend that in some cases takes us away from scale to reevaluate our systems of production and delivery from large to small opens up the opportunity for new and better solutions. We have to learn to ask questions that consider the bigger picture. One reason asking good questions is not a more pervasive skill is because our educational system is built on answering questions. In K through 12 education, the ratio of teacher questions to student questions can be as high as 95% on the teacher side. And the further you go on in your education doesn't mean it gets better. When questions are about knowledge acquisition and comprehension, solving problems, we are rewarded for the right answers. It's no wonder we have such little experience in learning how to construct questions. In the best work environments, the important and difficult job is not always to find the right answers. It's to make sure we're working on the right question. To look at the problem with different eyes might take some time. It takes commitment to stay on point. This is why who you work with is so important. Sometimes to support their curiosity and persistence in exploring questions can be one of the most valuable contributions you can make. Good listening is one of the great skills, if we listen to expand our thinking. If we listen for ways to reinforce our thinking, we find it more difficult to be open. Let's run with that a while behavior, instead of, we don't have time for that. And if it's a wrong turn, finding out we are wrong can be a great experience. It gets us closer to what will work. Our species drives for resolution, for clarity, and for speed. These may not be assets in the quest for the right question. The right question often demands patience and tolerance along the way. So, why is considering human behavior so important? We know we should make decisions based on solid, rigorous thinking. But too often we make decisions based on how we feel, our fears and our desires. We like to be right. Some of us don't want confrontation. And often we look for the data that agrees with our assumptions or that can meet the deadlines and expectations we're given. Motives may not align with intent. And there are multiple components to creating these questions: needs, constraints, values, the laws of nature, and imagination. Thomas Huxley spoke of the laws of nature 150 years ago. He called them the rules of the game, the rules of life on this earth. These rules could have been considered in the examples of fuels and food. And imagination, it can help you reframe a question. The year before Uber launched, do you think taxi companies asked how they could be more efficient movers of people? Or did they ask how they could be a more profitable taxi company? Questions exploring what we can imagine become better informed and more useful through overcoming the obstacles we encounter. And this is the process that Marie Curie and Grace Hopper, Steve Jobs and Mahatma Gandhi, Jane Goodall and Martin Luther King, they all followed this process. And like our heroes, we pursue what we can imagine. We ask questions again and again and again until those questions lead us to our solution. To achieve what we imagine requires that we begin and that we persist. And asking better questions moves us down that road, and it raises the bar for everyone. And each of our heroes used this process to inspire others and build support for their work. Perhaps most importantly, we need to be clear on our values. With clear values, we have less problems sorting things out. You are likely asking questions of yourself right now. Which job should I take? What do I really want to do? For myself, I like to work in an environment that values and practices collaboration, that provides timely feedback, and that respects people and focuses on work performance and avoids assumptions based on gender or ethnicity. When you evaluate your options, you'll need to consider your values and principles to decide where and with whom you will work. This process is not just logical, it is emotionally demanding. Creating the right question demands resiliency, and the right questions are often not popular. For example, you might be on a design team for public housing, Moving on towards the end of the design process, and this question arises. Why can't the housing project we're designing accommodate more physically disadvantaged people? Or, you're on a team that has been sheltering in place, and the governor of your state has lifted that requirement, and your boss wants an all-hands, in-person meeting at the end of the week. Are you fine with that? Or, you and two coworkers are charged with staffing a technical team. You have a candidate you think is perfect, but your two coworkers want to hire someone whom you all agree doesn't seem as strong technically, but they've worked with him before and think that that lowers the risk, lower than if you hire her. Hopefully I provoked a feeling in you. This is what I mean by emotionally demanding. These questions can make people uncomfortable. They threaten schedules, budgets, egos, the status quo. We may hear opposition. That's not how we do things here. Let's be practical. Why are we wasting time? We need to come to a consensus. And these questions can make us uneasy. Our internal voice may jump in with, well, what if I'm wrong? Or what if I forgot something important? Or what if no one else agrees with me? Or even, my spouse or partner won't like it if I have to work late again. Sometimes people know their questions might generate new information that may indicate a need for change, and they don't feel they can open up a new line of inquiry. A position worth holding is not being obstinate or stubborn. It's about good thinking, about a process you want to be associated with. It may not come easy. And the cost of failure can be high. In Miami last year, a new pedestrian bridge built for use by Florida International University collapsed, falling onto the highway below, killing 6 people. There were documented failures in the design of the bridge, failures by the outside design review firm, and the contractor. The Florida Department of Transportation had delegated responsibility for managing the project to the university, which had no professional engineers on its staff and relied solely on the expertise of its hired contractors. New election systems in Iowa were installed and failed. They hadn't been tested for use in a caucus environment. The 56-story Millennium Tower in San Francisco has sunk 18 inches and has tilted 14 inches since its completion in 2008. Boeing launched a new airliner in May of 2017, and after 2 of them crashed in a 5-month period, the planes have been grounded since March of 2019. We find the answer to why these failures happen pretty darn fast, and we sound quite knowledgeable when we do. Yet in each example, there were explicit warnings, and people made flawed decisions not by wanting to fail, but by failing to pursue the questions that would have avoided failure, by compromising, or by looking for the answer they wanted to hear. But the rewards for getting the questions right, a world that didn't exist 20 years ago. A world created through imagination, values, and questions. Instead of publishing encyclopedias every year, we have Wikipedia. Instead of waiting 2 weeks for goods to be shipped, we get what we want, delivered to our homes in 2 days or less, through Amazon. Instead of going to the library for research, we have Google. Instead of carrying cameras, recorders, music players, appointment books, address books, paper files, and so much more, we have iPhones. And if we can't go see our friends or find a convenient time to talk, we have WhatsApp. We have treatments for HIV, a cure for Ebola, engineered therapeutics for personalized medicine. Sometimes we're finding unanticipated flaws and possible dangers in some of these marvelous capacities, like those unanticipated in plastics, fossil fuels, and factory farming. Solving them will create new opportunities. More good news. Today, there are fewer people by numbers and by percentage that live in poverty or face violence than at any time in human history. One example. In 1990, the United Nations set a goal to cut the world's poverty rate in half by 2015. It reached the goal 5 years early, in 2010. Over 1 billion people escaping extreme poverty in just 20 years. And by some measures, 45 million people every year are joining them. Now, I wrote the previous paragraph before the era of COVID-19, now only a couple of months old, began. Those economic gains of the past 30 years are threatened, just as the economies of more developed countries are threatened. History tells us we will overcome this challenge, and new ideas and behaviors are already emerging in a matter of weeks. The attention of the scientific community is on COVID-19, and at last count, I saw over 200 scientific efforts to develop therapeutics and diagnostics by national laboratories, by university laboratories, by commercial biotech and pharmaceutical companies. It is a scary and anxious time for certain, and it is a certainty that these challenges will be met. As always, we are living through remarkable times. We will learn from this, questioning what we can do better. There are still so many questions, most urgently the fundamentals and solutions to address the existential crisis of our species. Climate change is forcing us to articulate how we will live on this planet, our planet. And we have you, a generation willing to do this work. We can answer these questions, and in doing so, feed ourselves sustainably while protecting the air, land, oceans, and the species with whom we share this planet. I'm not suggesting you stop and marvel at this world, though for a moment you might want to. But I am suggesting you change what we have today into something unimaginably better in the next 20 years, as this world was barely imaginable 20 years past. Considering the laws of nature, your values, and your imagination, your questions will inform the solutions to these challenges. This is where engineers shine. This is your time. So here is my question for you. Will you commit to the practice of getting to the right question? This can make all the difference. Thank you, UIC. Thank you, professors and leaders who believed in me, my family, my partners, my friends. It's your love and support that give me my amazing life. I am grateful.